Republican Congressman Tom Emmer of Minnesota, House Majority Whip for the 118th Congress. Great to have you in focus for the first time. Welcome.
Good to be with you, Harris.
Well, when you hear words like potential cover-up, possible influence peddling scheme, what's going on with Capitol Hill right now in terms of responding to this?
I think everybody's trying to figure this one out. Harris, I go back to last Thursday when the president made the comment, "There's no there." Well, since then, we've got a ratcheting up of this thing where the Department of Justice is actually scouring his house for hours. They're trying to make this look like it's different from other people who have classified documents. This might be the worst case of in the words of my colleague Mike Turner, the serial classified document hoarder. He's got documents now we know going back to his time in the Senate, going back to his time as the vice president. He's got them at Penn University. He's got them in his home in Wilmington. When is this going to end? And the big question, Harris, why does he have them? Why was he holding on to them? And what were they being used for, Harris?
Well, and that's particularly important when you consider that some of them were, as old as his time in the Senate, which ended 15 years ago.
Amen. And I just, when they try to tell you, they're spinning this, trying to tell the American public, this is different from, for instance, the raid on former President Trump's home. Somehow this is different because of the cooperation that's going on. I think you correctly pointed out when you started this segment today, there is no cooperation. This president is using every lever of government that he controls, including the DOJ, to try and control the release of these things. And frankly, this is why House Republicans and this new select committee on the weaponization of government, the double standard, is so important that we be able to do our job through Jamie Comer, Jim Jordan, and several others. The American people, Harris, 2/3 of the American people want this investigated. They want to know what President Biden was doing with these classified documents.
Well, look, you said last Thursday the president said there's no there. The previous Thursday, his press secretary said that the searches were over. He's using every lever, as you say, of government. He's also using that microphone a lot, and some of this stuff just isn't true. Let's get to this. This new batch of classified documents seems to be, perhaps, don't want to overblow it, but perhaps building a bridge between some on the left and the right. They're gathering around a single idea, criticizing this president. Some Democrats here.
It's unbelievable how this could happen. It's totally irresponsible.
It's to think that any of them ended up in boxes, in storage, one place or the other, is just unacceptable.
There needs to be this independent investigation, an independent prosecutor.
Other Democrats say they're not concerned about the scandal.
I also don't think this is an issue that's keeping Americans up at night. I think they're worried about much more day-to-day things like inflation, prices at the pump, prescription drug prices.
Congressman Whip, you alluded to it. Let's show everybody. New polling says otherwise. After the most recent discovery, more than 60% of Americans say they think Biden handled all the unearthed classified documents inappropriately, furthering what you said, Congressman, about the fact that they want to see someone get to the bottom of it.
They absolutely do. And I disagree with the senator. You can go ahead and try to tell the American public that they shouldn't care about this. At worst, this is sloppy. This is an oversight, flouting of the law by someone who's been in government for 50 years. And it gets worse because it could be a severe problem with our national security, Harris. Americans do care about this, and we need to find out why it happened, what it was being used for, and more importantly, who else had access to these documents.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, look, they were in a garage, and the president said some of them, were near his Corvette. Locked up in the garage. We saw pictures of his son that we unearthed and showed everybody. There's Biden driving the Stingray Corvette. His son, too. I mean, how many people even just had access to the garage and the documents there? Look, I mentioned before that even getting the truth out of the White House and the press secretary may feel frustrating right now because it might not be happening. But also, I wanted to bring this up, if I'll ask my team to put it back on the screen. The New York Times is calling out the White House's silence on those classified documents. Mum was the word from their initial discovery on November 2nd to when the story broke months later, January 9th. Here's a quote. The decision to keep the discovery of classified documents secret from the public and even most of the White House staff for 68 days was driven by what turned out to be a futile hope that the incident could be quietly disposed of without broader implications for Biden or his presidency. Congressman, your reaction?
It's just this double standard that it's unnerving, Harris. Again, this is why we've got to have this select committee that investigates how government is being used to be weaponized against political adversaries. You look at the two different ways this was handled. Mar-a-Lago, very public. You have a search warrant. You've got cameras on this thing. This one is handled where the American public don't even get to know. And the White House wants to tell you that this president is cooperating from day one. If he's cooperating, why aren't we seeing everything? Remember, the best antiseptic to corruption is sunlight. Why don't we open it all up, and why don't you go get warrants instead of playing with the White House, having them tell you where you can search, when you can search, who can be there? Why doesn't this administration get treated like the last one, and by the way, like every other American on Main Street all across this country?
Well, that warrants part is really important. And, you know, last quick one for you. How much does this frustrate the president in terms of wanting to announce 2024 plans?
I think I think this is a big deal for his 2024 plans, and I think they might have been in question anyway. But certainly, you've got Ron Klain leaving the White House. You've got some disruption going on with the group around him. You've got this smells to high heaven with the constant drip, drip, drip of finding more of these after he tells us 1 week after another there's no there. Apparently, there's a lot there, and we need to investigate, and I think it will have an impact on 2024.
House Majority Whip Tom Emmer with us today. Great to have you in focus for the first time. Thank you.